On May 16, 2006, a newlywed woman, Allison Rivera, was leaving on a business trip from her Baltimore home, and her husband, Ray Rivera, carried her suitcase down and put it in the car. While waving her husband goodbye, who had just told her, "Thank you for loving me so much," Allison had no clue that this was the last time she would see her husband. Today's story is about the death of Ray Rivera, and it'll make you rack your brain thinking, how can death be so mysterious that it keeps a family questioning their reality so much that they would never be the same again?
I'd be looking into those 3 co-workers real deep, especially since the last phone call came from his work. And these 3 co-workers, the ones that actually spot this hole, a lot of times when killers kill and they have some remorse of some sort and the body is not found for a while, they will give clues as to where this body is. Sometimes they'll call police anonymously and say it, but they have some sort of remorse, therefore they want the body to be found. Is that what happened here? I don't know, but I'd certainly be looking into those 3 co-workers.
On May 16, 2006, Allison and Ray Rivera, a young couple, had a quiet yet romantic breakfast before Allison left for her business trip. She had a 3.5-hour drive to a different city where she finished her day around 6:30 p.m., checked into a hotel, and called Ray. Her call went to voicemail and Ray didn't answer.
Please press 1 to leave me a message. Pulsa el número 1 para dejarme un recado. No, gracias.
Allison found it quite strange because whenever she was away from her husband, he used to be very attentive in terms of calls and communication. Around that time, Ray and Allison were hosting a house guest, Allison's colleague Claudia. Claudia told her that she had heard a phone call come in around 6 p.m. Ray spoke over the call and left the house in a hurry. Claudia checked the whole house. All the lights were on, but Ray wasn't there. She informed Allison and told her she would ask Ray to give her a call once he got home. Around 5:30 a.m., Claudia called again with a worried voice and informed Allison that Ray was still not home. Allison felt that something was really wrong, and she left for home immediately. On her way back to Baltimore, she called all their relatives and informed that she can't find Ray. Within a few hours, all the relatives were on their way to Baltimore. Once Allison reached home, she saw that there was a soda can popped open in the kitchen with a bag of potato chips laying beside it. Their bedroom lights were on, only Ray wasn't there. All their relatives were in their dining room by evening. They started calling everyone known to Ray to find out where he is. When they didn't get any luck, they started calling hospitals. Ray was a devoted, family-oriented person, and it was completely unnatural of him to go MIA like this without informing his wife or anyone else in the family. Everyone had the same question: where did he go? Ray Rivera was born on 10 June 1973 to Angel and Maria Rivera. He grew up to be a 6'2" handsome man with broad shoulders and a smile that can make anyone's day better. He had an elder sibling named Angel Rivera Jr. Their father was in the army and they were always moving from city to city while growing up. He got a great sense of Puerto Rican value from his parents, and he always honored that. He got married to Allison in a Puerto Rican town named Isabela by the beach. In the words of Allison, it was a magical wedding. Ray's dream was to become a writer and director, and movies were his life. After their wedding, Ray and Allison were living in Southern California so that Ray could pursue his dreams. But his screenplays were not bringing them money, hence Ray turned to an old friend named Porter Stansberry in Baltimore. Porter was Ray's high school friend, and they played water polo together. Over the years, they became really tight and managed to keep a fully functioning adult friendship. Porter owned a finance company named Stansberry Associates that wrote financial newsletters. He wanted to work with Ray for a really long time, and in 2004, Ray took the job, and him and Allison moved to Baltimore. They had a pact to stay there for 24 months and see if things worked out. They didn't know anyone in Baltimore apart from Porter, but they found a beautiful home in an amazing neighborhood with a church nearby and started making connections really quick. Their life in Baltimore was beautiful, so what provoked him to disappear on people he loved the most? Everyone was baffled. When calling the hospitals and people known to Ray was of no help, the family started distributing flyers with Ray's picture on them as a missing person. Ray's friend Porter managed to get the news out to the media and put out an award for $1,000 for whoever could find Ray. There was no movement on his credit cards, his phone was dead, he hadn't taken out any cash from the bank either. 6 days passed, but there was no sign of Ray. Allison, her mom, and her dad decided to drive through the entire city looking for Ray's car. When they were crossing St. Paul's Street, Allison's mother spotted Ray's car at a parking lot behind a building. They called the police, and within minutes, the entire place was swarming with cops and media, as Ray's disappearance was the most turbulent event that town had seen that year. When they found the car, there was a parking ticket on it. The parking attendant said that they put the ticket on the car in the morning of the 7th of May when he came to work, which means the car was parked in the same spot unattended for 6 whole days. Although Ray was still nowhere to be found, now the police had a clue and they knew where to go from there. The area where Ray's car was parked was close to the Belvedere Hotel. Ray's company was also nearby, so it wasn't unusual for him to be in that part of town. What was unusual was that after searching the car, police found nothing. Ray's papers were not inside, nor his cell phone, and there was no sign of someone breaking into the car either. There was absolutely nothing that could shine any light on his disappearance. Something didn't feel right, and police started to suspect foul play. After the car was found, everyone started searching around the area. On the 24th of May, someone found a hole on the roof of the Belvedere Hotel. 3 of Ray's co-workers decided to go to the top of the Belvedere Hotel. They went towards the edge to look down, and they spotted a pair of flip-flops on a lower roof. The only way to spot the hole was to either be at the top of the Belvedere or to be at the top of the parking garage next to it. Initially, the hole just looked like a spot on a white roof, and it wasn't even a big hole. The 3 men who spotted the hole called the police. The roof was of an old racquetball court, which was at the unused part of the hotel. Most people didn't even know that it existed. When police got the hotel's security personnel to open the door of that racquetball court, they noticed an unbearable stench. The stench was coming from Ray's dead body. Blood was coming down the walls and his legs were facing the door. The roof was made of metal, so it was likely that he came through the metal and crashed on the floor. Police informed his family about finding his body, and they were devastated. But at the same time, they had questions. How could a guy who's sipping on a soda, having potato chips at one moment, rush out of his house to go jump off the roof at the next? Michael Blair, the detective of Ray Rivera's case, responded to the call after Ray's body was found at the Belvedere. His reports say that his body was decomposed at that point as he was missing for 8 days. He knew that a lot of evidence was going to be lost due to the stage of decomposition of his body. Ray's autopsy was heartbreaking. He had lots of broken ribs, a punctured lung, lacerations, a broken skull, 2 different breaks in his leg, which suggested a fall from a great height. But Michael also noticed that the hole on the roof was very small to fit a person like Ray. So how did he get through the hole? Multiple theories started forming amongst the police and detectives about his fall. The first theory was he jumped off the top roof of the hotel and went through that lower roof. The distance between the edge of the roof to the hole was 45 feet. Even if he made a running jump, it was impossible for him to make it that far since he was wearing flip-flops. The second theory was, he jumped off of the roof from the parking garage that was adjacent to the building. The height of the parking garage from the height of the hole was just 20 feet, which anyone could survive even after going through a roof. Ray's injuries were pretty intense, and that could not have happened from such a shallow fall. There were theories that he jumped off a ledge that was wrapped around the building of the Belvedere on the 10th floor. Although the height and distance of the jump seems plausible, to jump from there, Ray had to go through someone's room, condo, or property. The windows adjacent to the ledge were half windows from where you couldn't get out. That hole remained a mystery, but that wasn't the only one. When police found his phone and eyeglasses, they saw that there wasn't even a scratch on them. Considering the injuries he had and how fatal they were, there was no way that a man could fall from a great height with unbroken glasses and a scratchless phone. At this point, police started to believe that the body and evidence were staged. His wife had gifted him an engraved money clip, which Ray always carried. That was never found. When police asked around the staff and guests of Belvedere, they found that no one had seen him. In a public building where people are going to a restaurant in a popular hotel in Belvedere, it's impossible that even one staff member wouldn't notice him. Police combed through the hotel's CCTV footage, and they didn't even find a single glimpse of him. As much as police wanted to prove this case was a murder, there wasn't a lot of hard evidence. There were no bullet holes, no stab wounds. It just looked like Ray's body fell through the roof, and that was it. Ray was at a good point in his life. He was planning to expand his family with his wife, and he was financially stable. The medical examiners couldn't rule it as suicide either. They declared the cause of death as undetermined. The investigators racked their brains on this case, but there just wasn't anything for them to go on. After Ray's death, his wife started searching everywhere around the house looking for clues, and that's when she found a note taped behind Ray's computer. The note was typed in tiny font, and his wife knew that he wrote it on the same day of his disappearance because there were scraps of his note in the trash can. The note started off as, "Brothers and sisters, right now around the world, volcanoes are erupting. What a wonderful sight. Whom virtue unites, death will not separate." It was a very unusual note. It had the names of Ray's favorite movies, his family members. There was a whole page regarding people he knew, but he missed significant people, which seemed strange to his wife. The movies were ones that really stuck with him, so were the names of the songs. The question was, why were they compiled in that format? The note said, "I stand before your man to understand the purpose and the value of our secrets. That's why I cherish them as secrets." Allison got very curious and searched the first sentence of Ray's letter on Google. The first thing that came up was Freemasons. Ray was always curious about secret societies and Freemasons and wanted to write a screenplay about it. You might think that the note was part of his screenplay, but then why did he hide it by taping it to his computer? After Ray's death, his friend Porter Stansberry immediately lawyered up and prevented his entire organization from indulging in any conversation related to the investigation of Ray's death, which was extremely strange considering how close Ray was with him. Did Ray find out something against Porter and his organization? Was Ray really a part of a secret society? His family, journalists, and the case detectives still believed that the note Ray left had some kind of code in it which they were never able to crack. Later on, Ray's case got cold as police had no hard evidence and no one to charge with his murder, but it still remains one of the most mysterious deaths in police files. Ray's family has never gotten their answers. His wife loved him so much that she never even thought of starting over. Ray Rivera Jr. has a son now who will never know how amazing his uncle was. The Rivera family has never been the same after Ray ever again.